I think the first part of mentorship is making it safe enough for someone to admit they're lost. If they think every question is a test, you've already lost them.
Yeah. People get very good at nodding while quietly panicking.
Exactly. And in coaching, I'd rather hear, "I don't know," than a polished answer that hides confusion. Trust starts there.
It helps when the mentor doesn't jump in too fast. If I'm interrupted every time I hesitate, I stop thinking out loud.
That's a good point. You need enough silence for someone to work through the mess. Not awkward silence forever, just enough that they don't feel rescued too quickly.
Rescued too quickly is such a polite way to say, "You didn't let me learn."
I'm trying to be diplomatic while we're surrounded by paint and soft music. Though honestly, this whole workshop is a decent metaphor. If you keep correcting every brushstroke, nobody ever develops a style.
Or they paint like a compliance document.
That is the saddest kind of art. In mentoring, I like to make it clear that mistakes are data, not evidence of incompetence.
That's harder when the person already thinks they're one mistake away from being exposed.
Then you have to be consistent. Follow through. Don't overreact when they bring you a rough draft or a failed attempt. Calm response builds safety.
Consistency is underrated. People remember when you're steady. They also remember when you say, "No, that's fine," and then visibly panic 5 minutes later.
Yes, that undermines everything. I'd rather be honest about the risk than fake calm. Maybe that's the coaching part. Clear expectations, low drama, and enough room to ask the uncomfortable questions without getting punished for them. And once there's trust, feedback has to be useful, not just accurate. Good job is nice, but it doesn't help them improve.
Right, wait. Neither does "this isn't working" unless you enjoy watching people spiral quietly.
Which, to be clear, I do not. Actionable feedback should point to the next move. 1 or 2 specific things they can try now, not 10 abstract flaws.
Specific is safer. If you say, "This design feels off," my brain will spend 3 hours translating that into 20 possible disasters.
Then I'd say the main issue is the first section is too dense. Try breaking it into 2 steps and see if the flow improves. That's something a person can act on.
That's better. It leaves room to improve without making it sound like the whole thing is broken.
Exactly. And I try to separate the work from the person. This approach needs adjustment, lands differently than, "You're not strong at this."
Much differently. The second one stays in your head for months.
I know. Feedback should stretch someone, not flatten them. If they leave with one clear change and the sense they can do it, that's a good session.
And if they ask follow-up questions, it means they're engaged, not failing.
Or that they're smart enough to clarify before rebuilding the wrong thing, which in software is almost a superpower. Which is why coaching works best when you can turn that feedback into goals. Otherwise, it just floats around as advice people half remember.
Yeah, vague improvement is basically a trap. It sounds productive, and then vanishes in the week.
So I like setting 1 or 2 concrete goals, tied to behavior. Not, "Be better at communication," but summarize decisions at the end of meetings.
That's measurable. Also less likely to become a personality crisis.
Ideally. And then you check progress regularly, even briefly. A 5-minute review can reveal more than a long end-of-quarter recap.
I like checkpoints because they make things feel less personal. It's not, "Did I fail?" It's, "What changed?"
Exactly. You're tracking movement, not judging character. And if progress stalls, that's information too.
Sometimes the goal was too big, or the metric was wrong, or the person was trying to improve in a week what actually takes 3 months.
which is why coaching has to be adjustable. If the goal is too vague, sharpen it. If it's too hard, break it down. If it's too easy, raise the bar.
Sounds simple when you say it.
It is simple. Not easy, but simple. That's the part people resist.
Because simple means there's nowhere to hide.
And that's where a lot of coaches go wrong. They either hover or disappear. The real skill is knowing when to guide and when to step back.
Hovering feels safer in the moment, until the person starts asking for permission to breathe. Wah.
Or to open their editor. Yes. If you solve everything for them, they never build judgment. But if you leave them alone too early, they can get stuck and lose confidence.
So you want controlled struggle?
I prefer supported independence. But yes, controlled struggle sounds a bit more dramatic. The point is to let them wrestle with the problem first.
For how long?
Long enough to think, not long enough to despair. I usually ask questions before giving answers. What have you tried? What seems off? What would you do next?
That forces them to map the problem instead of waiting for the fix.
Exactly. And if they still can't move, I'll offer a hint, not the whole solution.
Hints are merciful. Full answers can make people passive.
Yes, and independence is what you're really coaching toward. Not dependence on your judgment, but confidence in theirs.
That's the part that feels hard to measure.
It is. But you can see it when they stop asking, "Is this right?" and start saying, "Here's why I think this is right." That shift shows up a lot in code reviews too. A good review shouldn't just catch problems. It should teach how to think.
If it only catches problems, people start treating it like a scanner with opinions.
Which is not the goal. I want reviews to explain the why behind a suggestion, especially when the issue isn't obvious.
That helps with patterns. If someone keeps getting the same comment, they're not just missing a line, they're missing the underlying rule.
Right. Ja. So instead of rename this variable, I might say, this name makes the intent clearer and it'll help future readers avoid confusion. That gives context.
Context matters. Otherwise, reviews can feel like a list of tiny punishments.
And tone matters too. If the review is sharp, people stop seeing it as collaboration.
I've seen people rewrite whole comments in their heads as attack.
I believe it. So I try to frame reviews as shared problem solving. Here is what I noticed, here's why it matters, and here's one way to improve it.
That's more teachable, also less exhausting.
And when the person responds with their own reasoning, that's even better. Then the review becomes a conversation, not a verdict.
Assuming everyone remembers that other humans are reading their comments.
A dangerous assumption, but one we keep trying to teach.